You are listening to Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. Everything I have found here, I'm not found by myself. Try and sometimes you'll succeed to make this man of me. All my stolen missing parts I've no need for any more, 'cause I believe, and I believe 'cause I can see our future days, days of you and me.
What is going down? What the fuck is going down? It is your boy, Studio McGyver, and you are listening to Studio McGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast. Today, we have a guest with us. He's been here many a time, and he goes by the name of Dig24. We are going to be talking about The Last of Us 2. Yes, he finally beat the game. I beat the game fairly early. I think I did it on a Tuesday, and he got it done Sunday. So wanted to make sure he had his playthrough so that we could discuss this game. Now, before I get started, I just want to say this game is a very divisive game out here, okay, when it comes to the story. There's a lot of people, if you haven't heard, which I'm sure most have, things about the story that they didn't resonate with for whatever reason. I'm just going to be talking about my thoughts, how I felt about the game. This is going to be a spoiler podcast, so if you haven't played the game or finished the game, before we get started, please pause it, stop it, whatever you need to do, and come back to it, this podcast, when you're finished. We're going to be giving our thoughts on the game. We're going to be talking about, the characters, everything pretty much from the whole aspect of every angle you can probably think of in this podcast. So strap on your fucking seatbelts. If you need to, grab some fucking popcorn and let's get into it. Now, Dig, my friend, my boy, let's start off with you because, like I said, you just finished the game Sunday, and I couldn't wait for you to finish the fucking game. I was trying so hard, to get you there. And I wanted to say so many things, discuss so many things about this game. That's one thing to discuss the game, on a platform or, on a tweet or whatever. But when you get a chance to discuss it with a friend, I think it's a little bit more intimate because, it's something like, it's almost like going to a restaurant, eating something extremely tasteful. And you want to tell somebody, hey, man, you need to try this. You need to experience this. And that's how I felt about this game. I'm going to go get into a whole lot of things that this game did for me and it made me actually do. But let's start with you. How did you initially feel about this title?
Well, I think we got to go Inception for me, really, because I didn't play the first one. And I mentioned in the last podcast I was on with you that, I felt like you was one of the number one campaigners on this one, man. So I feel like definitely listening to your experience about it. And then when I went back and watched the playthrough, it was like 10 hours. Like I said, I didn't watch the whole thing beginning, middle, and end. But it really showed me what the game was about versus had I played it. And then I'm really into that stealth mechanic. I did get to sit down with you and your son when y'all were playing the online mode. So I got to experience that.
Right.
And you even gave me the controller, so I did get to get hands-on with that. So I would say coming from there, I feel like I was like a rookie essentially. I hadn't really played through the first one. I didn't have that profound respect for these characters that I see so many people do, for them to be so emotionally invested and upset with, I guess, the way things played out. With that said,
Mm,
now that I've actually gotten my own copy and played through it and got to take my time with it, I can say I enjoyed it. I did. I don't know if it was just more so from admiration because of what we saw graphically, even mechanically, as far as the realism is what I'm going to say. Because, you know, some
okay.
games you shoot somebody and you hurt them, whatever, there's just a kind of general mechanic of them falling to the ground. I felt like this
Yeah.
game, it really mattered where you hit people and how that played out and being able to see it with clarity as well. That's the other thing. Like to really be able to see it versus just I don't know. I look at it like a game that has like a really generic car blowing up. You've seen one car blow up, you've seen them all. This one, I really felt like
Right.
every interaction was kind of, I guess, handcrafted by me and what I was doing with the experience, what decisions I made. More primarily, you know, the decision to go stealthy or just to go in and noisy, I guess. So
Okay.
overall, I liked it. But I feel like even if and something that I saw in looking at a lot of other people's reviews is, and it really made me think, you really have to look at this in segments, right? Like gameplay, yeah, graphics, story, much like you see in typical reviews. Like they kind of break it down in sections. But overall, I say good. I guess I'll save my score until we've talked about some other angles.
Okay. I was just gonna ask you what your score was because I like to start with the
Oh,
score and
okay.
then talk about just how why I gave it that score.
Okay, let's do that.
But yeah, you could. I mean, however you want to do it. If you want to hold yours to the end, or if you want to start yours now, hey, you know, do it however you want. Now, I think people who've been following me know that I think the game is a masterpiece. I think it's a piece of history, and when you talk about from a gamer's sense, it's something that, in my opinion, brings up a lot of uncomfortable questions too. I mean, just about society and the diversity in this title is really, really something. I mean, it's pretty much every race, for the most part, in this game. And I don't think it was forced. I think it was just happened to be what it was.
Yeah, I saw that.
I, yeah, they really, really took their time with this title, and then also, I listened to the podcast, Kind of Funny Podcast. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it's a podcast from IGN where they talk about things, and they are really they were really invested in the people who was involved in this game. So I got a chance to hear Neil Druckmann talk. I got a chance to hear the actors for Joel and Ellie talk about the process, everything that went into these characters and the breakdowns and all of that. And listening to that just made me realize that these guys weren't taking this shit lightly, man. For all the people out there listening right now who you know hated the game per se or the story, if you will, I mean, you have to listen to this interview to understand, how important these characters are to these actors and what they mean to Neil. Because, I don't think anybody loves these characters more than those actors and the creator of it. So making, this game, talking about Joel's death and how all that shit transpired, man, it hurt a lot of people, angered a lot of people, and disappointed a lot of people, man. But I think it's something that needed to be done. Honestly, if you're asking me, I didn't or wasn't looking for a Last of Us where Ellie and Joel are running out here in these Last of Us streets again, trying to make it to point A to point Z. That would have just kind of watered down the first experience from the first game, in my humble opinion. Now I'm somebody who played the first one many a time, the DLC recently, all of that, and got a good take on where they went with that game compared to where they went with this game. A lot of people saying, the first one is better, first one's a straight classic, yada yada. And I totally agree with the first one being a classic, because it is. But I also have to say that this game here is right there with it. And we're definitely going to talk about all this shit, man. We're going to get to some of these characters and stuff. And I can't wait to dive in. So I kind of want to start with one of the main characters. Let's start with Ellie, man. I mean, she's known out here in these digital streets. Let's keep it real. She's a character, iconic character, all of that. Her and Joel, man, did a lot of things, went on a lot of adventures or whatnot. And man, Ellie's always and forever going to be my girl. Like always and forever. I love her. Love her to fucking death. And man, the dynamic she had, with Joel. And like I said, when I'm talking about this, I'm also referring to The Last of Us 1 because that gives her more context. And I advise anybody, if you haven't played The Last of Us 1, I mean, it's gonna, I don't know, I don't think it's gonna have that same punch, that a lot of these characters to me had, for playing it. I just really advise you, if you don't play it, hey, go watch it, because you can just watch a playthrough. You can experience the story. You can instill to get to know these characters,
right?
Man.
And I feel like that's something I can get on right now. So Ellie as a character, like I said, I didn't play the first one, but I did get to go through the playthrough, and I respond to well-written stories. And when I first watched this gameplay with Last of Us 2, saw how Joel actually met Ellie, and that whole saga of him getting sick and her having to get the medicine, and ultimately the decision he made with the Fireflies. I can say that I instantly liked Ellie as a character. Instantly. She was cute. Still had that savagery to her, obviously, with the way she eventually did in the game. Just very likable.
Right.
Genuinely likable. I don't like characters that you force me to like, or you say this is going to be your favorite. And I think that was very naturally done there. And then watching her transition to this one and now getting hands-on, I felt like it was somebody I knew because I did take the time to learn what I did about the first one versus my prior experience. And I like her. I did through this one. I mean, we can talk about all the twists and turns, but yeah, definitely, generally as a character, I liked her. I understood her motivations. I understood why she felt the way she did about Joel. Definitely why Joel felt the way he did about her. And I would definitely have to say why people were so upset that Joel died.
And and while we're talking about that, okay, look, I cannot even say this shit. Perfect. Okay, I understand that a lot of people out there are shitting on the game, because of what happened to Joel in the game, and I think that's wrong. That's the wrong way to feel. Now, I'm not trying to tell anybody how to feel. I'm just saying, in my opinion, man, I just don't understand how people can look at it like wrong when, everybody loves Joel because, and me too, me included, you know what I mean? Everybody hated this happened to Joe, but Joe was a smuggler. Joe was, somebody who, had a hard life, who killed a lot of people, who did a lot of terrible things, just like most people in this world, right? And you were forced basically to play as him. Okay, I mean, you had control of him the entirety of the game for the most part. I think 85% of the game you control Joe. So even though he did all these things, he was a savage out here. You grew to love him because you spend time with him and you got a chance to play as him. You had no other choice. You couldn't say, "Oh, I want to play as Barbara or whoever." I mean, you had to play as Joel. So going through that experience, playing the game as him, you grew to love this guy. You saw his layers, you saw his relationship develop with Ellie, all of these things, right? So, it's only natural to feel some type of way when he's introduced into another game, the next chapter, if you will, and he's killed. Okay? That's a natural feeling. But me personally, I didn't look at it like, oh, curse you motherfuckers like you killed Joe. Joel, in a sense, had it coming, knew it was coming, just didn't know when. When you cross so many people, when you do these things, I mean, in this world, it's not surprising if something comes back around. And all they're doing now is giving us the controller and letting us experience this through other characters now. So it's only fair to say, hey, let's at least play this thing through. Let's at least give this shit a chance. If you love the first one, then you owe it to yourself to play the second one to find out everything there is about it. I think the leaks kind of fucked up a lot of things for a lot of people. It put a lot of fucking seeds in a lot of people's heads that were, unjust.
I agree with that.
And it had people out here running around making, false judgments on shit that they had nothing or any idea about. And I think a lot of that hurt the game because for a lot of people, I would say that. It didn't hurt it for me. I saw all the fucking leaks, okay? And I still went in the game, and came out loving the fuck out of it. So it's just really about, who you're put in front of, or who's put in front of you, who you have to control, what kind of story is being told. And I look at it like that. Look, they're giving us other players. They're giving us Abby now, which I love, by the way. And they're letting us experience, their story. Just like they did with Joel, just like they did with Ellie in The Last of Us 1. So if you're not willing to give that the same chance that you gave Joel, who you didn't know, okay, just like you didn't know Abby, then you're a fucking hypocrite in my eyes. I mean, honestly, I respect anybody, who has an opinion. But to have an opinion, you have to experience the thing to have an opinion about it, in my humble opinion.
I agree, and that's why I'm glad I took the time to play. Especially when you said a lot of the, let's call it what it is, misinformation that was put out there. But here's the thing, right? Neil Druckmann put out some misinformation. I can't absolve them of that because they did and they knew what they were doing. So I do start to understand that angle. But I don't want to feel like I'm all over the place. So I'm going to try to kind of center it and really start breaking down this story and what we saw and what we experienced. So that's where I'm going to bring it to real quick, something I highlighted earlier. Graphics, mechanics, world design, all were fantastic in my opinion. So I feel like we got to compartmentalize here and put that apart. Because I feel like that's why I'm excited about the multiplayer. That's why I'm excited about this next generation of gaming. So, like, when you talk about that, that is why, people who give this game, 2s, 3s, 4s, you're crazy. That's not fair.
The Saki's real.
It's not fair. But if you want to start bringing in the story and certain plot pieces and, the stuff that they did with the marketing, and you actually mentioned that when you and I talked a little bit earlier about the whole, I guess, kind of leading people to believe that Joel had more of a role in this movie as far as living, I guess, versus what actually happened and him dying early, kind of, I guess, the damage control, the leaks. Was that your understanding of that?
Basically, my understanding of it was that when the leaks came out, they had to, do something to kind of mitigate what took place. So they purposely made trailers with different characters, swapping places, doing things of that nature to throw off, the potential player, which I thought was cool, which they were almost forced to do. But, living in this world today, man, with these leaks and all this crazy shit, I mean, it's hard to navigate that shit sometimes. I mean, if this wasn't Naughty Dog, this could have killed, a lot of game companies, man. Like this type of shit, this type of leak out here. And like you said, you made some comments earlier about, some of these thumbnails motherfuckers were putting out.
Oh, yeah, I hated they did that with spoiler thumbnails. Little scenes and stuff. That was terrible. I think even if you hated it, you weren't going to play it, you wanted to make the money grab, I guess, on YouTube or whatever your platform is and trash it.
Right.
I think that was in poor taste. I feel like you can say what you want about it. You can not play it and say what you want about it, but just to throw those thumbnails out there and spoiling it for people is terrible. And that goes with what you said. People who played the first one and liked it, but didn't pick up this one because they listened to, I guess, the nonsense. Yeah, you definitely cheated yourself, and they cheated you.
Woo-wee, you did. Oh, did you ever? I'm playing the second playthrough right now, and I can honestly tell you right now, it has been a completely different experience on a lot of fronts as far as my second playthrough. Some shit has happened to me in areas that didn't happen to me before. I took different, routes, and I just took different approaches, and just trying to be more. I guess it's more fun than second playthrough, in my opinion, because that first playthrough, there's a lot of tension, in the air, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's around that corner. But once you beat the game and you play it again, you kind of know a lot of the set pieces and how those things happen. So you prepare for those. And it's fun because you get all your weapons, New Game Plus, and you can kind of just, approach everything more tactical, and it kind of puts another fun element on top of it. So I'm like, I'm not going here this time. I'm going to do this time. And it's a completely different experience, man. And I don't know, man. Very few games do that to me that make me want to replay it right back again. Like, God of War is one of the only games that did that, where I beat it and I was like, yo, I could play this again. I could literally play this shit again. This is one of the other games that have done this. And that speaks volumes for this title, man, in my opinion. Everybody's going to have their own opinions if you want to talk about all that. But yeah, like you said earlier, man, the 2s and the 3s and all this shit, man, there's no way that this game is getting a 2 or a fucking 3, even with a terrible story. Okay, because if you're talking about everything else in the game, the world building, the environments, all of those things, the mechanics of the game, those are fucking so pristine in itself, the animations, all of that shit.
The exhilaration, when you really feel like you running from something. Man, we talked about that scene. I guess now we get into the story. The one where you're running from that big monster at Ground Zero.
Yes.
I was legit running for my life.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. That's probably my scariest, besides the stalkers, the room with all the fucking stalkers, man, in there, with Ellie. Those probably are, my most dreaded. I'm still dreading that scene. When I get to that part again, I'm just, I'm going to be super prepared for this motherfucker. But, that's still not going to take away, the feeling that scene gave me when I played it, man. Not knowing where the fuck you're running to, because, you don't know the map. You know what I mean? You're just running around and trying to be safe. And it's just, and then their move sets are different. Like a lot of their weapons are different. And that's also a cool thing when you talk about the comparisons between these two, Ellie and Abby, as far as their set, their move sets or whatever, or their weapons. I thought that was really cool, especially how Ellie, in my opinion, her selection is more diverse, I think, and Abby's is more catered to. We talked about this earlier, where she's more of a strong style character, so her weapons kind of mirror that in a sense, because she has shivs. She has to craft her fucking shivs. She doesn't have a knife that she can use all the time like Ellie does. So I think it's kind of a contrast between the two characters that they were trying to convey, and I kind of dug that as well. And just the variety, you know what I mean? Yes, you're going to be playing with Abby for a while, but her weapons, we talked about her shotgun shells that you never really got a chance to really explore.
But here's my question when you talk
about
about these two characters that we played, and before I guess we just pass off on the leaks. Like I said, once I beat it, I got a moment to kind of go look at other people's reviews and see what they were saying. And you talked about, how it's kind of like a deep hole and figuring out what's going on, who's saying what. But here's one thing that I'd like to get your opinion on. So, we talked about the misdirection and the fact that, yes, you play as Ellie and you play as Abby, and the fact that their stories are intertwined in this death of Joel. And yes, the misdirections and the leaks. I've heard the argument that people feel cheated by Naughty Dog and by extension Sony, I guess, because they didn't let you know, I guess, that you'd be playing as these two characters, and that they were so, I guess, divisive on hiding Joel's story. Like, do you feel like there's any weight to that statement of people feeling cheated for their $60 because of this misdirection?
No, I don't. And I say that because they did not make the game. And this is one of the things I love about Naughty Dog with this game. They didn't make the game to be a quote unquote fan serviceable title. Mm-hmm. Okay. You're talking about a world where death is around every fucking corner. Even if you look at The Last of Us 1 at the end, what Joel did, if you really look at what he did and what they were trying to convey to you is that in part 2 is that when you make and do certain things, man, they come back. They have repercussions. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be next week, but they always come back around. And we're talking about a monumental event that took place in the first one. Okay, this motherfucker basically said, fuck the world. Okay? He basically said, fuck the world when he took her off that table and killed those doctors. He disbanded the fucking Fireflies after that because the doctor who was killed, which is Abby's father, was the fucking spearhead of that organization because he was the only one who could fucking come up with possibly a cure to end this shit. And when that happened, when he died, they disbanded. They fucking fell off. He basically, Joel was responsible for this, okay? Now, they want you to understand that, you know, Abby's side of it, you know, I really appreciated her story because you had to see the other side of the coin. And people talking about, like you said, that they felt cheated, are looking at it wrong. They're looking at this shit completely wrong, okay? Because who made these characters? Who made them? Neil Druckmann created these motherfuckers. He made these characters. So for you to even, you should be grateful that you're even upset about
and
that.
I think that's a big point,
Sit there and
too.
think
People
about that.
care that much to send this man death threats. You care.
He fucking
you was
from
invested.
From the
If you get there, that's the bottom line. You cared about his characters, so he did his job. It sucks that it comes down to something like that, but I think that's testimony to how much people cared about what he created.
If he would have took his toys and went home, we would be talking about this right now anyway. There would be
No
nothing
Last
to talk
of Us
about
2,
anyway.
I suppose.
You see what I'm saying? And I always look at that when I'm pissed about certain characters in Dragon Ball and all that, and you know, that I love. Without Toriyama, there'd be no Dragon Ball, so there would be no discussion. Same thing, you know, about this. There would be no fucking Last of Us, man, to even be pissed about. So be passionate, be mad about your character, you know, doing all that. But death threats and all this other crazy shit, you know what I'm saying? These guys are telling a story. Respect the story. I mean, you respect the first story.
What you said about experience. And this game definitely, and why it has my respect, and I guess I rated it where I do, is because of the experience. It was good. I'm thinking about some other games that I paid for here recently that I did not enjoy much.
Right.
And I know I told you I got strange taste. A lot of people loved them. Outer World come to mind. I paid full price for that. I don't think I made it off the first planet. Haven't been back. So I feel like it's just about what the game did. And I feel like one thing that this game did is, like I said, those moments of exhilaration and somebody chasing you and the gunfire and, you know, you're got to hide behind something and you take out this guy and then they see you and then you're on the run again. Like, you really felt invested. You really had to think. Yeah. You really got your heart pumping. And I'm just thinking about games I played. It did not feel as in depth on that sense. I mean, I'm thinking about Neo 2. And the reason why I'm thinking about Neo 2 is because that's another game that I think was good. And believe it or not,
yes,
I'd hate to say it, I would ultimately rate higher than this game for a whole nother reason.
Oh,
yeah,
Neo 2.
I would for a whole nother reason. But really because of the experience I had with Neo 2. And I really think, and I
Right.
have to be honest as a disclaimer on that, because I got to play with so many of my friends on Neo 2. I mean, it was like a reunion. You remember. A lot of the guys we've been
Yeah.
playing with, they were back, Neo 2. We were making groups. We was making parties. It went on for about, what, 30, 45 days. Like, that is the side of
Yeah.
gaming in these new games that I love. That Last of Us 2 at that point won't be able to do just because of the nature of it. And even with that said, I enjoyed this single player experience in Last of Us 2. I really did.
That's my wheelhouse. I love single player experiences, man. I'm an introvert by nature. I love playing with friends online because we have done so many things together online. That's how we met on Dragon Ball
Yeah.
Xenoverse. But when it comes to, these type of stories being told, these type of, these adventures, if you will, that is my favorite genre of game. You know, and they're kind of different. I mean, because yeah, Neo 2 was a great game. I had lots of fun playing it and all of that. But to me, this story, a lot of people hate it for the story. I love it for the story, man. I mean, I love the fact that Joel died. I mean, if that makes sense. I love the fact that he wasn't afraid to, you know, put these characters through these things, even though I know, loves these characters more than all these people bitching and moaning about, Joe being dead and all that. Nobody loves these guys more than the creators, more than the actors. And you have to realize that. And for them to sacrifice these characters for the sake of telling their story, that's a commendable thing, man. That's what a lot of people don't understand. This guy, these are his characters. Okay. So it was, I'm sure it was hard for them to do this, to convey these things, man. So I don't really have sympathy for people who are bitching and moaning about, the fate of these characters because, the story is what is most important in my humble opinion. There's a story trying to be told here. And to do that, certain things have to be done. Certain characters have to die.
Yeah, I mean, I look at
And
it.
it wouldn't work any other way. It just wouldn't, man. I mean, it just fucking wouldn't. Everybody hating Abby, don't you know that was part of the plan? Like, that was part of the fucking plan. Not the death threats and all that shit, of course. But we live in a society where people take things, to the fucking extreme, all the time behind their keyboards, behind their fucking emojis, behind, all of these things. Okay? These burner accounts that they create and they talk shit and they do these things. I mean, all those guys, all those people doing that, hey, fuck you. I have no love in the building at all for you for doing that gay ass shit. But, if you're being honest reviewer, and if you say, hey, I give the game 7 out of 10, and you've played the game from beginning to end, hey, I respect your grade. I respect what you say, what you didn't like about the game, and all that, even though I don't necessarily agree with you. That's what this is
Yeah.
about. Having discussions about things. And we're not even just talking about games here. I'm talking about a larger scale. The shit we're going through, all the shit that's happening right now in this world right now, man. This game teaches you, in a sense, that it kind of shows it pulls a mirror up to what's going on in the world. There's a lot of fuckers out here who are giving it 2s and 3s who don't, no matter what you say or do, they're not going to listen. Okay, they're going to be fuck boys forever because that's just how they are. Okay, they're not going to play a game. They're going to talk about shit that they don't have an idea about. They're going to make, bad judgments and all these things. And that's what that's what that signifies to me. When you see those 2s and 3s out here for people who don't play the game or people who are just trying to be dickheads or whatever for the sake of being it. You can't change those people. But the ones that actually say, okay, I didn't like what I saw on the fucking, trailer, or I didn't like what I saw on the leaks, but I'm going to try it out for myself because, number one, I love the first game, and I want to give this game a chance, this story a chance, even though I know Joel's going to die or whatever, and play it. And then when the credits are rolling, make a fucking honest assessment of what you have taken, what you have done. That's all
I
I'm
had to,
saying.
and I had to actually challenge some of my critiques. One of them that I shared with you earlier being the sex scene with Abby and Owen. And the fact that You know, we talk about a forward time and, you know, a natural body type. Not all women are voluptuous. So enter Abby. And I think that they did that. Speak about misinformation, you know, oh, she took steroids, oh, she's a lesbian, all
She
not true.
trans,
So
all that
that's why
shit.
you got to watch the misinformation. But I can't help but think like, okay, like I said, this same sex scene, I was thinking like, would this be okay in another video game? What type of backlash would we get? And you know what I thought about?
So,
Witcher 3. Sex scenes were in there. A voluptuous woman. Nobody had any problem with that. And also Mass Effect Andromeda had sex scenes, voluptuous women. No one had a problem with that. So I don't think that this game got a pass. So anybody who's on that, I think we got to get off of that because that was one that I thought would be a point, but when you think about it, it's not. There's other games that have done this, and it was okay.
yeah,
So
you can fuck an alien. That's cool,
exactly.
but
So
you
we can't.
know,
We gotta. I can't put that strike on them. But there is one, if I'm being honest, that has left me feeling. To this moment that I'm having this conversation with you. I'm still thinking about it because before I watched any of the reviews, obviously I played the game for myself and beat it. I felt
yep.
like the story was interesting, definitely. The cohesive whole, I don't know. You know, I've heard the reviews about the narrative with Lev and his sister being unnecessary. But my
I
thing
mean, who? But
is, I feel like, did this game, I talked about the graphics and mechanics. On top of that, did it just give you a whole bunch of wow factors to manipulate you? Or was it really a good story? That's where I'm confused. Because I felt like a lot of it was just we're gonna hit you with some shock. We're just gonna hit you with some shock, and that's what's gonna make you say this game is great. And that's where I feel a little confused. And the main example that has been used that I felt, like I said, I felt somehow manipulated, but I couldn't articulate it, being the dog, right? You play as Ellie, you kill the dog, no big deal. You don't know who this dog is. Dog was trying to kill you, you killed it. You play with Abby, you see this is Abby's dog, one of her favorite dogs. They make you play catch with this dog, not once but twice. Make you play catch with this dog. So you start to bond with it, and then you see Ellie killed it. So it's like, that's what I'm saying, the manipulation. Like, who are you meant to like here versus who you're not? And I feel like it's like, was I manipulated or was somebody just telling me a story? I don't know.
I think people are missing the bigger picture of this game in essence, man. And I say that because when they wrote this, this is a piece of work. This is of work.
I see
Okay,
that.
this is like when you said earlier, you made a discussion. You said that, you know, how can I say this? They're not trying to appease you. They weren't trying to appease the player when they made this game. They were just trying to tell a story. That's it. If you break it down all the way down and take everything away from it, you know what I mean? They're just telling a story. Now you can get on board with the story, or you don't have to get on board with the story. Whatever happens between you picking up that controller and then and then you putting it down, that is them showing you their, I guess, their take on it.
Well, when you put it like
They
that, it
created
was a
something
thrill
for-
ride. I had to say, when you put it like that, it was a thrill
Yeah.
ride. Yes, it was.
I love the story, man, because like I said, I love this universe. I love the Last of Us world because if you think of Last of Us, think of it like this. Don't think of it like it's the Last of Us, like, oh, it's just Joel and Ellie. Think of it as the Last of Us, as a whole, as a fucking race of people. The Last of Us. Okay? Look at it like that. That's the context I think they want you to look at this in, especially in the second game. Okay? Because everybody in this world is trying to do the same thing. Everybody. And they're so, you know, they're so paranoid and scared and defensive, with other groups because they don't want anybody else new coming in because they, you know, in this world, anything can fucking happen and they don't want to take any chances. You know, it takes a lot for somebody to bring people in these communities and in these things or whatever, and there's always people, who are looking at you sideways and funny and, I don't trust him or her just yet or whatever. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of guards being, broken down and people getting taken advantage of, waiting for that right moment. And that's an ongoing cycle here in this world because there's always something going on and you're always asking yourself, when that next, ball is going to drop.
Okay.
That's the world that they want people to see. Like that's what they're giving us. They're trying to show us. They're trying to show this is the world. This is the last of us. And this is what takes place in this world. Like these are things that happen in this world. And some people can't get over the fact that, oh, this is Joel. But the bigger picture is this is Joel in this world. And this is what happens. And these things can happen to anybody here in this world that we created. This is the last of us. That's what I'm like. A lot of people don't, they look at it like, okay, it's a video game and Joe died and he shouldn't have died and I hate it. Okay. That's not what they're trying to convey here. That's really not what they're trying to convey here, man. And it's frustrating for me because I see it. I knew it, but when I heard the interviews, that confirmed it. And I thought I was slipping. Maybe I was drinking too much sake. Maybe I was smoking sherm. But no, I'm not. I'm just a guy who wants to be entertained. I did a video. I just want to be entertained. Okay, on my YouTube channel. When I just talk about how when this coming into this game, look, I don't give a fuck what happens. I just want to be entertained. I want to be taken on a ride. I want to be shown believable things. And Joe dying is a fucking believable thing. People think that, oh my God, he cannot die. Are you serious right now? You know what I mean? There were so many dope characters in the first game as well that you met and you came across, and they died for whatever reason, whether they got bit or whatever, they died. Same thing in The Last of Us 2, man. Why not Joe is what I'm asking. Why not Joe? I don't know. I mean, that's just me, man. I mean, feel how you want to feel about the game. And that's your prerogative to feel the way you want to feel about it. But a lot of people, they're not looking at it through that lens. They only see what they want to see. And you can't make somebody, see something they don't want to see. You can lead a horse to fucking water, man, but you can't make them drink it, okay?
Yeah,
you
this
can't.
conversation has helped already because, like I said, coming into this, I had a lot of mixed feelings. But here's what I just realized: I'm very analytical when it comes in general, but definitely when it comes to storytelling and what type of mechanics are being used and yes, set pieces and that type of thing. So if this is a question of manipulation or a good story, it's a good story because you have to create a story structurally like that. And that goes to what you were saying about, Neil Druckmann and these actors. They really took a lot of time with this and they thought about all these different angles. They cared enough to do that. And that's why I laughed at myself when I heard you say, we haven't thought about a sequel to this one. Yes, you have. You don't get that passionate about your project and after you record a piece, be thinking about, oh, that'd be interesting in the next one. Don't tell me you ain't at least had that thought, Neil. So that's why I definitely think that that's not true. But yeah, it wasn't manipulation. It was required. And that's like you said, to give you that side of Abby. And I'm just thinking about some moments in the game that really had me like, wow. You know what I mean? Like when Abby ran into Joel and he helped her. I didn't play the first one and I knew what the gravity of that moment was. Yeah, obviously when Joel died, I'm trying to think of some other ones that had me like, wow. I mean, the death of some of the major characters.
Yes. And the way they died, man, it wasn't
And
romantic.
it's funny. And I thought this to myself. Like you said, The Last of Us, death is around every corner. Lev, who came in. I'm trying to give a little background here. Lev and his sister came in for the Seraphite storyline. They were two runaways, basically. But I felt like when his sister lost her arm, but they had to go back out to find Lev, I was thinking in my head her chances of survival just plummeted because that arm was amputated and she was out there. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that has a huge impact on your success rate when you out there trying to survive. And sure enough, she did not make it. So it makes you think about that. Even now I'm getting to the ending. I mean, I know we done skipped a lot of stuff in between, but where Ellie finds Abby tied up to the pole, you know, a wilted shade of herself. Like that story was not about to end well for Abby and Lev, right? That looked like the end of the game for them had Ellie not come back for her revenge. So I feel like that speaks to like how sad these stories were, because I didn't see Abby and Lev running into something like that, and that'd be in the end of them. They was both tied up there.
That was going to be a wrap.
Game over.
That was going to be a wrap, which is so ironic as well. An ironic twist at the end.
All done on purpose, and that's fine.
Right.
And that's my point.
And even at the end, even at the very end, when you start New Game Plus, when you turn the game on, and you see the boat in there, and the boat is washed ashore on an island, and basically, Naughty Dog is telling you, yo, they made it to that island that they were initially looking for before they got captured. Okay, they were looking for the fucking Fireflies, which were about 200 strong, if I remember correctly, what the guy told them. And they were there. So,
see, and that made me think, I'm glad you mentioned that and you found that out, because I was thinking maybe when they called that radio, those people that found them was just playing them.
Right.
I thought that for a moment.
That's what a lot of people... it was easy to think that.
But I mean, he asked certain questions that made me not believe it when he was like, you know, who was your commander and all that. And it was like he actually knew who she was talking about. Like, I felt like if he was acting, he deserved an Emmy off of that.
Right. Exactly. That's how you distinguish, you know, the real from the fake. That's what gave me the impression that, okay, these guys are real. Yeah. And this is a real base. And you saw the stuff, hang the flags flying off and all that. So, you know, it's open-ended. I mean, you can basically, I believe that if they did it right, there could be substance for another game. I mean, you know, if you can understand, you know, how Abby's condition where she's immune and all that, she can kind of tell the Fireflies, hey, I know this girl, she's immune, because, you know, she did know that Abby was immune to the virus or whatever. She knew who she was finally. She knew that was the girl on the table, yada, yada, yada. So, I mean, you could carve out a story for that. You very well could, but you could also very well just let it go. And when you're talking about letting go, that was the saddest and happiest time at the same time that happened to me at the end of that game, when Ellie came back home, you know, found the house empty as fuck, everything but her room, all her shit was put in one room, and she didn't, keep in mind, she didn't have those fingers anymore. So she tried to play the song that Joe taught her, and she couldn't play it anymore. And then she just put the guitar down and walked out and left. And for me, I thought that what happened was she was finally able to let go back when she was fighting Abby, and she didn't drown her. She let her make it. And it was a hard thing for her to do. You could tell it was a fucking struggle for her to let go, because she sat there in that fucking water that like seemed like forever, in anguish. And then she finally returns home to find it empty, to find out that, yes, this shit cost her so many things. But the bright side to all of that, the fucking light at the end of that tunnel, was her being able to let go of Joel and what happened to him and move on to the next chapter in her life. And her putting that guitar down and walking away from it kind of signified that for me. Now, where she's going, nobody knows. Neil Druckmann was even asked this question, and he said he didn't fucking know. He left it open-ended for the player. And, you know, was he going back to was she going back to Jackson to go find Dina? You know, was she just going on her own and she was just going to walk alone and try to make it out there in those Last of the Streets? We don't fucking know. But the beauty is being able to imagine your own story in your mind. Maybe in your mind, she's going back to Jackson. Maybe in my mind, she's just going to be by herself and walk the earth. You know, both answers are not right and both answers are not wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm just laughing because to
beauty of
me, I definitely get that, but I looked at it for exactly what it was. She walking off in the farm. It wasn't no much deeper than that for me. I didn't know where she was going.
Yeah, I mean, but to me, I thought about this, man. This game did some shit to me that no other game has done, man. Like I bought a pack I hadn't smoked cigarettes in years, okay? I fucking went and had to buy a pack of Cools, okay, after this game. I swear to God, I'm not lying to you guys. I'm not lying to you because it was weighing on me. This game haunted the fuck out of me. Still right now to this day, it's still haunting me. Like I still find myself sitting idle in the car, maybe in the shower, and my mind drifts off to, you know, these characters, and I'm like, you know, I can't believe that happened, or I wonder where she really did go. Is there going to be a third game? I mean, and that's saying something, man. When you can do that to somebody, that is really saying something. And like I said, this has never happened to me before. Like it's never made me feel that way before. And my girl asked me, why, you know, cigarettes, why is there, you know, your car smell like cigarettes and all this stuff, you know, the shit's giving me a headache, da 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 da. What made you, you know, buy some cigarettes out of all this time? And I told her, and, you know, she couldn't believe me. She didn't believe. She thought I was playing games. She thought I was lying. But honestly, I was not lying. That's how fucking impactful, you know, to me, this story was, man. Because I didn't look at it as a video game, just a video game. I walked away from this shit feeling like I just had a crazy experience. I mean, it's a book, it's a fucking movie, it's a fucking show, you know, and a game. It's all of these things wrapped up into one, and I can't really put one thing on it. It's an experience, man. And I'm doing it currently now. I'm still doing it. Masterpiece, man. All day, in my opinion. I have nothing, you know, but good things to say about this game. It's a piece of art. It's a piece of gaming history. It'll be talked about for years to come. There'll be debates about it. And I think when they made this game, they knew it was going to be a lot of that going on with the game. And that was really one of their main goals. Let's start a conversation. You know, let's start a conversation about these characters, about, you know, this world and all of these things. And I think they've done an excellent job.
Yeah, I feel like just prior to that multiplayer money grab, because it's coming. And boy, did this game give us a lot of new mechanics and graphics to make that something to really look forward to.
What?
Because, I mean, a lot of people say in the first one, they prefer the factions versus the story. You've heard that.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people were looking for the faction gameplay. And I feel like that
this game, with the way they stepped up the mechanics, like, I heard some people were very underwhelmed. Like, oh, they added jump. It didn't add much to my gameplay. Well, it's going to be dope in factions. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like certain pieces like that, you got to look. And we also talked about melee combat. When I play video games, I typically do not do melee unless it's like required, you know, for honor type deal. But this game, melee was my number one pick.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because of resources. Let me add that. I understand some people had struggled with resources. I guess I didn't because I was cool with sticking to the knife. A brick and a knife. That's what I wanted. Right. That was my number one pick in the first place. So I was good with it. And I did mention that I would have liked to see some more executions. Like I said, being able to be up underneath of something, maybe grab somebody by the feet, take them out, or jump on them from above, take them out. this game really could have done well with something like that. But other than that, like I said, it really did a good job getting you invested in your character, invested in the sequences, how they played out. I felt like it also took the chains off you, so to speak, because you know most RPG-ish games, you have to make a trade-off between taking a fight for experience or skipping it for time. I felt like this game, because you were picking up the medicine pills, it wasn't about how many people you killed to be able to level up. It was literally how do you want to
Right.
approach this.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that was
That's a
dope.
definitely good point.
The puzzles, I'm not a big fan of puzzles at any capacity in games. I have to put that out there. I feel like this was bearable. It wasn't too much. Much like Jedi Fallen Order, I felt like that was a little bit more platformy than I would have liked. This game, like you mentioned, the action sequences, some of the
Yeah.
escapes and chase scenes on the horses and in cars, all of that was fantastic. You know, a statement somebody made that they didn't remember any of the stages, like particular scenes or battle sequences that they were in. And I feel like, what game were you playing? Because I got a gang of them. One of them that's coming to
Well,
mind right now is when you get Abby and the scars attack your truck. And so basically you're trying to escape and they're all trying to come at you. And you get to that gas
yeah.
station and you're about to fight. And then your boys roll up in the trucks and just lay them out. Like, that was dope.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they did the Uncharted series, man. So there are going to be some dope set pieces. There were going to be some decent set
See,
pieces
I'm not
laid out
super
from here,
familiar
man.
with Uncharted. I've played it, but not to be like I've done all four. I'm all about Nathaniel Drake.
Right. Well, that's what they're known for, that those set pieces and stuff, man. Those over the top, movie type uh, things that they place in the games, and the way that they did these are more toned down, but more believable, and
Definitely.
kind of like they made it for this world. So, like I said, man, everything they did, I mean, and let's for like talking about Abby, it made me love Abby. Like, this game made me really love her as a character for her flaws, her faults, everything, about her. And looking at her story, made me see it from the other side of the coin.
I liked her more than
And
I
it
thought
made
I
me
would.
appreciate it.
I could say that.
I definitely did, because I hated her at first.
I didn't
Look,
hate
I
her.
really did. I'm not
I
gonna lie
wasn't
to you.
attached to Joel
I
like
hated her when she
everybody to
came.
be as upset as they were.
Yeah,
But
I was. I understood the hate that everybody felt for her because of what happened to Joe. And but I was still trying to be open minded and say, okay, look, they're doing this to us for a reason. They're putting this player in our hands for a reason. Let's find out why. That was my mindset on it. And if you had an inkling of that in your mind, then you were gonna like her at least a little bit.
well, you know what it
Uh,
was
you
for
know,
me, cause you know me. I like savage characters. You know, Vegeta, the ones with the kill count. And I
right?
feel like Abby definitely, especially that scene where she came to get them in the theater. I mean, she came in there like the T-1000, man. That was the only thing that I could think of. She came in that room like the T-1000. They was not stopping her. She took, and then even when what's the girl named Dina tried to help, she got iced.
Oh
That was
yeah,
probably one of my favorite scenes, as savage as it was, because she was like, "No, don't kill her. She's pregnant." Abby said, "Perfect." Like, that's just what I needed to hear. Like, those subtle
yeah,
details. Like, that's what I got to see.
yeah,
Like, yeah, that's that real side of Abby. That's why Owen's side chick or new chick didn't like her. That I didn't really understand
right.
at first. But if you think about it, she was a cold hard killer. Like, you look at her like, you're not a good person to be killing these people like this.
But see, that's my point, man. They did a great job with her because, look, she's good and she's bad, man. I mean, bad. Good people have bad things happen to them, and then they become bad for that reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she's scared of heights. She cares for these kids. Lev and them. She cared about them enough to go back and make sure they're good and all of these things. It's she's a complex character, like anybody. You know, it's not all the way green, and it's not all the way, you know, black, and it's not all the way white, man. I mean, that's the point they're also trying to convey in this big ass gray, you know, universe. You know, like all of these people have done great things, but they've also done terrible things, and the reasons are, you know, different for every individual. You know what I'm saying? Manny was a fucking pimp. He had hoes, you know, all over. He had little hot spots that he went around and he took these bitches to, you know, and he did his thing or whatever. He loved drinking beer and anime. He, you know, these characters had loves and hates and all and everything in between. And that's what I think Naughty Dog was trying to let us know. You know, yeah. She can be just as sweet. She would cry. You know, she was in love, you know, with Owen and their complex relationship, and Owen loved her, and you know, Mel was just that rebound that happened to get pregnant. I mean, that's what it was. You know what I mean? So they showed a lot of things, man, that made you kind of resonate with her. From my perspective, in my opinion, you know, that was all real. It was just real shit. You know what I mean? He wanted her to go with him when they were going to go and look for the fireflies, you know, but Mel basically said, hey, well, you know, we're going to go find the fireflies, but if you're going, I'm not. You know, she told her that shit, and it's just the way that they wrote this, man. I couldn't have been happier, man. I really couldn't have. All these characters are flawed. All of them have, you know, a lot of things about them that, you know, are just great. Just like us as people, man. Nobody's perfect, man. Everybody makes mistakes. And in this world, everybody has to do terrible things sometimes just to live and save your friends. Maybe you have to, you know, kill certain people or whatever. That's just the way it is. Joel felt he had to kill these doctors to save the girl he loved. Okay? And, you know, they felt they needed revenge, and she felt she needed her. So it's just like, yo, it's an ongoing thing. So, you know, that's really what I have to say about that. And a lot of people really, it's surprising me that they don't see that. Like, they refuse to see it. I think they see it, they know it, but they refuse to see it. They can't get past the love for one character or another, and they can't see the bigger picture. They can't see what Neil and those guys were trying to do and tell a story. They don't understand that. And if you don't even allow yourself to try to understand, then you're just a lost cause when it comes to that. So, I mean, why would I care, or why should he care if you hate the game or not? If if that's the way it's going to be, you can't change people's minds. So, hey, he put it on the table and walk away from it. You know, there's a lot of people who do love it, like me. There's a lot of people who, you know, not even have to love it, you know, but look at it as a decent piece of work. You know, a lot of these 7 out of 10 guys or whatever, for whatever reason, you know, they feel that it's a 7. Hey, they played it from top to bottom, so I can't argue with them on how they feel about a game. Even if they played it and said, you know what, this game is a fucking 2. Even though, let's be real with each other. Those guys, which there are some of those out there, they're just being dickheads. Okay. For the sake of just being dickheads, because, you know, most games, even the worst of the worst, aren't getting fucking 3s. Okay. They're getting 4s, even 5s, you know, out here. So, you know, that's like I said, it's a controversial game. It really, it's going to be, you know, and we'll come back to it years, you know, from now and talk about it and maybe discuss it. And that's, I think, what Neil ultimately wants. He wants to put out his story. He wants majority of people to like it. He wants it to be divisive. He wants it to cause, you know, conversations to take place. And, you know, that's what it's done. I look at it as a success. I look at it, you know, as a sales thing. If you're looking at sales, it's a success. If you're looking at what, you know, this game is got going on right now, I think it's a success. We have an HBO special coming. I think we have some comics, you know, out there, you know, in the works of this universe, and I can't wait to dive into it and get into all of the nooks and crannies of this universe, you know. And if we get another game, I'm buying it. no question. And if we don't, I'm happy with what I have. As far as the factions game's concerned, the online joint, I cannot fucking wait to play that. I can already see where they could take, a lot of this stuff with some of the mini boss fights, some of those heavy set, the spike welding characters, from the game. I mean, you could definitely see where this game could go, the potential, the weapons. Let's talk about that. I mean, my favorite weapon in the game is the hunting pistol, Abby's weapon. It's basically a fucking rifle, in pistol form. Is basically what it is. And I call it the Screamer because you can hit a motherfucker from a distance. You can hit him in the chest. Doesn't have to be a headshot or whatever. And they die in agony. They die screaming. Like 90% of my kills with that weapon have been screaming deaths every time. Love that fucking gun, man. I can't say enough about the gun. Can't wait to, jump back on Abby's story and abuse the fuck out of it. Because that is my weapon of choice. What is going down, guys? There were some technical difficulties. Dig is officially gone. He has left the building. We were going to wrap it up anyway. So I'm going to finish and wrap up this podcast, guys. And I want to basically say, if you loved The Last of Us 1, you need to give this game, The Last of Us 2, a chance. You owe it to yourself to play this game, okay? It's done so many different things to me in a good way, man. I haven't been through an experience like this in quite some time, and I loved every minute of it. As scared as I was playing it, as worried for the characters as I was playing it, not knowing what was around the corner, all of these things. And then the story, the characters, and the messages, all of these things. You can't help but want to do it all over again. My second playthrough. That's what I'm doing right now. Second fucking playthrough. And, I'm just having a great time. I bought the collector's edition. I do not regret it. And it's just a great game. It's a great piece. It's a great story. It's a great piece of art. It's all those things, man, in my opinion. Now, I would love to talk to a lot of you guys and pick your brains on the title, what you guys thought of it, the ones who actually played the game, of course, and get into some discussions and debates and, how you feel about certain characters, how you felt about just your journey, in this world. Be cool, man. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here, man. But if you guys want to get at me on social media, it's very, very easy to do. You can do that on Twitter at StudioMcGyver, on Instagram at StudioMcGyver79. Check out the YouTube channel. That's Studio McGyver TV. Also check out Beautiful Nerds. If you're into merch, if you're into gaming merch, if you're into anime, definitely check these guys out. www.beautifulnerds.com. Nerds is spelled N-U-R-D-Z. Check them out, guys. They update shit every fucking month. And I think there's something out there for everyone. With that being said, man, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. To all my listeners, I want to thank you for listening to this guy bitch and moan, give his thoughts about this game that I love so much. And yeah, I had a great time, guys. I love all of you. And I hope to see you again next week. This is Studio McGyver, and you have been listening to Studio McGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast. See you next time.